Mercedes have taken every pole position this year, except for one. The outlier was Turkey, where a mix of rain and new asphalt made conditions extremely treacherous. And the man who came through the madness to take his first pole position in Formula 1 is my guest this week. Welcome to Beyond the Grid with me, Tom Clarkson. Lance Stroll was that man on pole at Istanbul Park, and he went on to lead the race convincingly until his pit stop on lap 36. At that point, things started to unravel due to some front wing damage, but he'd made his point. He'd proved that he can mix it with the very best. Lance's pace in adverse conditions is nothing new. Remember his front row start at Monza in 2017, when he hauled his Williams up the order during a wet qualifying session. And we shouldn't be surprised by his coolness under pressure either, something we first saw in Baku 2017 when he kept his head while others didn't, to score his first podium in Formula 1. I'm not going to lie, Lance has his critics, mostly people who think he didn't have to fight hard enough to get where he is today because he had the backing of billionaire father Lawrence. And that may be true, but there are plenty of drivers like him in motor racing, and while money can buy opportunity, there's one thing it can't buy: talent. At every level on the road to Formula 1, Lance delivered, enjoying championship successes in Formula 4 and Formula 3 before getting his break with Williams in 2017. Lance and I sat down in Bahrain last weekend over a Zoom call, and despite interviewing him every weekend in the FIA press conferences, it was the first long chat we'd ever had. We talked about his background, about the negative press, about the highlights of his career so far, and so much more. And we had a laugh too. I hope you enjoy our conversation, and let's kick things off with a reminder of what happened in Turkey.
Lance Stroll going for pole! Lance Stroll's done it by a second and a half at the very end after being on the back foot since his huge crash in Mugello has done enough. An amazing qualifying session, and for the first time in Formula 1, Lance Stroll, a pole position winner.
Talk us through the euphoria of taking that pole in Turkey. Is the lap still imprinted on your memory?
I think that lap will be imprinted in my memory for a long time. It was very challenging out there. The conditions were really difficult. At the end of qualifying there in Q3, I had the confidence in the car, and I felt like I was pretty comfortable all the way throughout qualifying, and I really put in a good lap there at the end, and when I got the radio call, the radio message from my engineer that I was on pole, it was it was almost surreal.
Brad, I want to hear you say it, mate. That's pole position. I want to hear you say it.
That's pole position, Lance. Pole position.
Let's go!
It was such an amazing moment, such an amazing highlight in my career, and something that I've been dreaming about for a long time, and moments like that are moments that last with you forever. So it was definitely an amazing accomplishment, and like I said, one of the biggest highlights in my career for sure.
Being the hard-nosed racing driver, do you look at that lap and think, I could have gone a bit quicker here and here and here, and have you analysed it like that?
For sure, of course. There's always imperfection. There's always things in hindsight you look back on and think to yourself, I could have done that better, and I could have done that better. So for sure, I know it's impossible to be perfect, but that is what we strive for. So yeah, there's definitely a couple things, like turn 5, I went a little bit deep, and I thought to myself afterwards I could have done that a bit better, and but in those conditions it's all about minimizing mistakes, right? So all in all, I felt like it was a pretty good lap, and was pretty tidy. And to be honest, when I crossed the line, I knew that on that tire, on the intermediate tire, which we were on, and the lap that I just did, it would have been pretty hard for someone to beat that.
Why do you think you're so good in the wet? I mean, Max Verstappen's dad used to send Max out on slicks whenever it rained in go-karts. Did you do the same kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, I drove a lot in the wet growing up. Just back in Canada, the weather's so shitty that half the time we were running around in wet conditions. But I think it's just my joy for those conditions. You know, I really enjoy the challenge and the you know, I think like the dance that you have with the car in those conditions. I mean, every corner is kind of unexpected in terms of how wet it's going to be and how the car is going to react. So I think there's constant adaptation that comes with those conditions, and that's what I enjoy about it. I've always enjoyed that challenge, and I've just had a good feel for, you know, the car in wet conditions and where the limit is. I don't know what that comes down to, but it's just a challenge that I've always enjoyed, and I'm comfortable in those conditions.
Now, that dance you refer to, how different is it in the wet compared to in the dry?
I mean, in the wet, I guess the best way of describing it is I think everything just slows down, and it's as, you know, it's as if you're driving in slow motion. You know, finding the limit in the wet is it's risk reward a lot of the time. You know, I think it's understanding, it's calculating the risks that you're taking each corner, and recognizing that, you know, if you push a little bit too hard, you could spin off or, you know, crash. And it's recognizing where that limit is and deciding how far you want to push it. You know, and yeah, that was really what my pole came down to in Istanbul. I think I really built up to that lap very well throughout qualifying, just kind of studying each corner and where the limit of grip was. And then when I got to the end of Q3 and it was time to put in that lap, I executed it.
You're a very good skier. Do you think the risk reward you talk about is something that you learnt skiing?
I think
Are
maybe,
there parallels?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I've always been into like skiing and surfing and like, you know, sports like that with where like balance is required, and I guess there's a lot of feel to those sports, and I think the wet is really like a feel craft, I guess you could say. And yeah, I for sure, maybe it does contribute to it. I don't know, but I think it comes down to feel, you know, and in the wet I have a good feel, like I said, and that probably is why it suits me well.
You certainly do have a good feel. You mentioned surfing then. I saw that you went to the Wave at Bristol in the UK the other day. That's Damon Hill's favourite hangout.
Yeah, is it? I didn't know Damon spends his downtime at the Wave.
Yeah. I saw what you put on social media. You were catching some good waves.
Well, that's a strong word. I was tumbling in a few waves as well, but yeah, I've kind of got the surfing bug over the last couple of years, and when I can during my downtime, I'm trying to get better at it. So
now look, I'm still fascinated, Lance, about Turkey. You've explained qualifying and your dance in the wet so well. I just wanted to ask you about your mindset when you were sat on the grid on pole for the first time in Formula One. Did you feel extra pressure?
No, not really. I mean, you know, the butterflies for sure, and you know, all that, but I mean, those are the moments that I think as an athlete you have to embrace more than anything else. And you know, I really just took it all in, and I thought to myself, I'm on pole here, and you know, I'm in Formula One, and this is kind of a dream come true. So, you know, embrace it and enjoy it, because think those are the moments, you know, that you have to live for, and those are the moments that, you know, I feel like, you know, I feel so alive, and you know, it's almost surreal. So, you know, I was just very focused, and I embraced the whole thing, and I was focused on the race. You know, it was a good opportunity starting on pole. Unfortunately, the race didn't work out as planned, but no, it was an amazing moment that I enjoyed very much, and the nerves and all that, you know, that come with it. Of course, you know, that's every race. I think, you know, from wherever position you start, you know, there's always nerves, there's always butterflies, but I think that's probably the biggest reason why I compete in the first place, is because it's an emotion, you know, a feeling that that I don't get anywhere else outside of Formula One, and you know, I live for that moment on the grid where my palms are a bit sweaty, my heart's pumping, and I look forward to that every race.
So it's a love of competition as much as a love of driving.
Yeah, it's a combination of the two, for sure. I grew up always being very competitive. I was always very competitive growing up, and you know, at times I was probably like, you know, as much as it was my biggest strength, it's probably my biggest enemy at the same time. But yeah, I mean, it's a combination of the two. It's the element of competition I enjoy very much. I've always enjoyed, whether it be in this sport or other sports. I've always been very competitive growing up in a good way, and the craft of driving, for sure. You know, just the sport itself. That's, you know, it's a combination of those two things. I share the love for both driving and competition.
Do you think you ever master the craft of driving? Do you think Lewis Hamilton, after 7 world championships, has mastered it, or do you think he's still learning that craft?
No, I think we learn every day in everything we do. You know, when it comes to driving or whatever it may be. Like I said earlier, there's always areas, you know, that I look back on, or, you know, I'm sure Lewis does as well, even though he's a 7-time world champion, and, you know, his career is incredible, has been incredible. I'm sure there's still, you know, days he looks back and thinks, you know, could have done that better, could have done, but I guess that's why, that's the joy as well. That's the reason why we come back every year, come back every race, is to, you know, I do anyways, is to challenge myself. I love challenging myself, and I guess seeing how far my potential can go. I have an idea of, you know, where I want to get to, but then I'm sure when I get to that stage, I'm going to be chasing something else, and I'm going to be trying to, you know, build on my strengths and build on my weaknesses, you know, in 2 years' time when I get to that place. So it's a constant evolution, for sure.
Now, look, I've got one final question about Turkey. What felt better, pole on Saturday or disappearing into the distance at the start of the race?
Pole on Saturday, for sure.
Really? I thought those.
Yeah,
those
because the race wasn't over, Tom. The race wasn't over. No, pole on Saturday was pretty awesome. That one was that one touched the soul, for sure. If you were to ask me what was better, if I would have finished first or gotten pole, I would have said finish first. But yeah, another time.
More from Lance in just a moment. Now, before jetting off to the Bahrain Grand Prix, I was able to steal a few days back home with the family, and thanks to HelloFresh, it was so nice to have a box of fresh food waiting for me. That meant no lengthy queues at the supermarket scouring the aisles, because HelloFresh delivered all of the ingredients we could possibly need, pre-portioned and packaged, ready to be turned into delicious dinners with the help of a step-by-step recipe card. I have to say, it can be a tricky one, but the Mexican-style beef-loaded wedges turned out pretty good. And I mustn't miss out the caramelised onion sausage tray bake either. All of it was delicious. HelloFresh have a huge range of recipes to choose from and options to suit every lifestyle, including rapid recipes. which means you can have dinner on the table in under 20 minutes. And their flexible subscription means you can change, pause, or cancel your deliveries whenever you need to. And because the ingredients are weighed and pre-portioned, and get this, it means there's no unused food left over. In fact, HelloFresh customers waste 21% less food than those who buy it from the supermarket. Get 50% off your first HelloFresh box and 35% off your next 3 with the code Formula1, and that's number 1. So go to hellofresh.co.uk and enter the code Formula1 to redeem this offer. Well, look, let's talk about Formula One in slightly more general terms now. I just wanted to ask, has the sport of Formula One lived up to your expectations? Is it as much fun as you were expecting? Or, I mean, you've seen how political it is with the pink Mercedes case this year and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's all part of the circus, right? I think it's a love-hate relationship, you know? Formula One, I mean, you know, the great days are amazing. It's the most rewarding feeling in the world when you dedicate your time and you put in the work and it all comes together and you get the result. I think that is the most rewarding, most amazing feeling in the world. It's unlike anything else. But at the same time, for sure, when things don't go to plan and it's disappointing, it's extremely frustrating. You know, that's probably the worst feeling in the world. So I think it's definitely an emotional roller coaster, but all in all, you know, Formula One, it's my 4th season now, and it's been an incredible experience, and it's taught me so much as a driver, but more as a person. I think, you know, it's really helped me grow as a person, and I've learned a lot about myself throughout this journey. So it has been an incredible experience up to now. All in all, you know, it is a very interesting world to live in. And, you know, I've learned a lot about that. I think, you know, at the beginning it was definitely very overwhelming coming into Formula One. Hundreds of thousands of people at every race, millions watching from back home. You know, 500 people or more in some teams that, you know, dedicate their time and work tremendous amount of hours to help the team and to make the car as quick as possible. And when you're the driver, you're that final link in the chain that needs to go out there and get the job done. So at the beginning, it was definitely very overwhelming, and I do think that there was a lot that I didn't expect and that I wasn't prepared for when I came into Formula One that I thought I probably was prepared for.
Are you talking about driving, or are you talking about the circus?
Yeah, on and off the track, the circus, the driving. I think the whole package. And I think over the last couple of years, I've adapted and I've learned a lot about, you know, what I need to be competitive and how I can manage, you know, Formula One and you know, at the beginning I was very overwhelmed, and I think over time I've created my own little bubble of people that I listen to and that I trust, and you know, that's helped me a lot progress as a driver and fit into this Formula One world.
Do you think F1 has toughened you up a little bit?
Oh, absolutely. It's definitely grown some thicker skin on me. You know, it comes with so much adversity and so many obstacles. You know, that I think Formula One has taught me so much about racing, but as about life as well. Just to overcome adversity and manage, you know, emotions and you know, and to dedicate myself to something and challenge myself and push myself. You know, Formula One's forced me to push myself beyond limits that I didn't think I could go, and you know, that's technically, and that's, you know, physically, mentally, and in all different kinds of ways. So yeah, it's you know, it's definitely it's definitely aged me a few more years. But that's what makes it so incredible. Like I said earlier, it's just that constant challenge and that the whole journey, working with all these incredible engineers that 500, 600 people back at the factory that dedicate all their time to put the car on the grid, and everyone works on something to bring everything together, and I think that whole process and that whole journey is amazing, and I've really enjoyed that for the last 4 years.
Is it lonely sometimes being in your little bubble at races, traveling all over the world?
Well, this year it is with COVID.
Yeah, but even without COVID, is it because I think the perception is that you guys have the rock and roll life, and it's amazing from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to bed. But is it actually much tougher than that, particularly the loneliness aspect of it? Are you even mates with other drivers, for goodness sake?
That I am. Esteban's a good friend of mine, and Sergio, I've gotten to know him over the last couple of years, so for sure. It's definitely more glamorous when you're on pole position or when you're standing on top of the podium than it is on a Thursday here in Bahrain. That's for sure. No, for sure. I mean, definitely people. I think the majority of people probably only see the tip of the iceberg, and they see the good moments. But there's definitely a lot of underlying, struggles or challenging times, traveling around, jet lag, a lot of time in the gym, a lot of there is a lot of sacrifice, for sure. There is a lot of sacrifice, and that comes with being a professional athlete. I'm sure in any sport it's the same. So probably people don't always see that, but at the same time, I think that I guess what I call sacrifice has to be a part of the joy of being in Formula One, and the joy of being an athlete is there is a lot of dedication, there is a lot of sacrifice that comes with that process, and for sure at times it sucks. At times I wake up in the morning and I don't feel like going to the gym, or I don't feel like going to the factory and driving the simulator at 7 o'clock in the morning. I mean, like, it's there's on a Tuesday after a Grand Prix weekend when I'm tired. There is times like that, but like I said, when those glory moments do come, like being on pole, like standing on a podium, or just having a great result, and everything comes together, it's all worth it, and that's what keeps bringing me back.
I'm interested in your relationship with the other drivers. You say Esteban Ocon is a mate, but can you ever stop being rivals, even away from the racetrack? Or is it competition every time you see them?
No, I think that there's respect away from the track, and you can be good friends. There's no reason why not. With Esteban, I consider him a very good friend off the track, and whatever happens on the track happens on the track, and when we're off the track, we're buddies, and it's been like that, and I think it will always be like that. There's no reason why it doesn't have to be. We fight so hard, we battle so hard on the track, and when we have our helmets on, we are competitors, and everyone wants to beat everyone else, but away from the track, I think it's important to disconnect and forget about all that.
So don't hold grudges. Drivers don't hold grudges. Is that what we're saying here?
Well, I mean, if Esteban comes flying into me in turn one in Bahrain, that's a different. Maybe I won't talk to him the next day. That's a different story. I guess there's a fine line here, Tom.
Let's wind it back to 2015. All right, your first season in Formula 3. Now, I want to ask you about Monza. You and Antonio Giovinazzi come together, and it's one of the biggest crashes I've seen in a long time. I mean, do you guys laugh about that now, or just talking about grudges, or do you not even mention it?
No, I try. To be honest, I try and kind of forget about that day. It was a terrible day, and yeah, I mean, it's racing, you know. Unfortunately, sometimes, you know, when we're out there and we're, you know, fighting wheel to wheel, things go wrong. That was one of those days where things went wrong, and just luckily, you know, we all walked away from it okay, and you know, I wasn't hurt or anything like that, so I was very fortunate to get away with that one. That was one where I went home afterwards and I made myself a nice dinner and I pet my dog.
Well, look, things did get pretty wild in that first season of F3. Because if I point you to Spa as well, and Felix Rosenqvist, and there was I reckon that was quite an aggressive Lance Stroll racing driver back then. Would you agree?
Well, I was young and full of testosterone, so I had
younger, please.
There it is, exactly. I definitely had that fighting spirit inside of me, which I still do. I think I just lacked probably some control when I was a bit younger, and I think I was a little bit impatient at times to win, you know, to win races, and I think that backfired. You know, that definitely backfired on me, and in that season I learned a lot. I learned a lot about, you know, patience and kind of, you know, taming that. Taming myself and keeping myself together. I think I was very impatient that season to get my first win, and I knew that I was capable of getting it, and I had the speed to do it, and everything was in place to do it, but I just hadn't done it yet. For like 3/4 of the season, I hadn't won a race in Formula 3, and a lot of those crashes came down to just being a little bit too eager for it, and probably just trying too hard rather than letting it come to me. And that definitely was something that I learned that season. But I recovered towards the end of the season. I think the last few races of that season were much better for me. That was definitely a big learning lesson in my racing career. Just just calming myself down a bit, and I think just having a bit more patience. In that season, I was a little bit impatient in many of the races, and I caused a lot of accidents because of that, for sure.
Well, 2016, following year, you didn't stop winning. 14 wins out of 30 races.
I had to learn my lesson the hard way.
Well, and you did learn your lesson, didn't you? What was it like to ride that wave of success in 16?
I was drinking a lot of champagne, so it was
weren't even old enough.
Yeah, I wasn't even old enough, and I was drinking a lot of champagne.
Seriously, how do you sort of get to a point where you feel invincible?
Yes and no. With good results comes confidence. So I was definitely very confident that year, and I did feel like I was one step ahead of everyone else that season, because I kept proving it to myself. I kept proving to myself that I was, you know, winning races, and, you know, constantly on pole, and that just builds confidence. So I kept reassuring myself that I was better than the rest, and that was great. But did I ever feel invincible? No. I mean, you know, I always recognize that there's plenty of talent out there, and, you know, on someone else's good day they'll beat me, and it's as simple as that. So I try and always stay humble as a person, as a driver. You know, you never want to be overly confident about anything, because, you know, you can always be surprised. So no, it was just a great season in general. You know, I was at one with the car, and you know, I had a very good relationship with the team. You know, everyone really supported me that year in Prema, and we made a great team all together, and because of that, we had a great season. And I believe I came back into 2016 as a probably much more mature driver, and I learned from my mistakes from 2015, and that really contributed to my championship.
Can we talk a little bit about your journey now? Journey from living in Canada, coming to Europe, and then the whole racing bug. Can you remember what made you want to get into a go-kart for the first time? How old were you? 6?
I was 6, exactly. I was 6 the first time I got in a go-kart. And it all started because I was a little adrenaline junkie that was up for anything. And for my 6th birthday, my dad bought me a little go-kart. And we have a track. We own a track up in Canada, outside of Montreal, a little place called Mont Tremblant. And
there was an F1 race there back in the day, wasn't there?
I wasn't born, but maybe you were, Tom. No, I'm kidding.
Thank you very much, Mr. Stroll.
No, you're not that old. You're not that old. I was far from born, though, on the other hand. Yeah, that was way before my time. But anyways, no, so my dad bought me a little go-kart when I was 6, and I was always very passionate about racing and stuff. We'd watch Formula One together, and it was running through the family. So got my little go-kart at 6. We set up some cones in the parking lot of the racetrack, and I drove around like all summer, just around the cones, and there was just a little go-kart with like 4-stroke, small engine. I was 6, so it was really just the beginning, but that was the beginning of the end. That was the beginning of the end. And then I ended up here.
I love the fact that your first miles in a go-kart were at Mont Tremblant. And it was like a lightning strike, was it? In terms of you just loved it and knew from that moment on?
Wow, that's a strong word, that I knew at 6 years old that I was going to be in Formula One. But I definitely got the bug. I got the racing bug, and it grew from there. It grew from there, 1 year at a time, and ended up here.
Well, at what point did racing change from being a hobby to an obsession?
I was probably when I moved to Europe with my family. I was 12, 11 or 12. 12. I was 12, and we came over to Europe to compete. Internationally in go-karts, because it was much more competitive. The first few years I raced in Canada, it's competitive, but if you want to compete against the best, you have to come to Europe, and that's where all the best drivers in the world, from 12 years old onwards, compete. So when we made that commitment, that's when it started to become more serious. But it was still, Formula One was still kind of in the distance, and I wasn't sure at 12 years old that I was going to be a Formula One driver. It was still a hobby. It was still fun. I mean, you can't take things too seriously at that age, and I think that when I was in Formula 3 and I was winning races, and I signed with Williams that year to be their, I think it was reserve, not their reserve driver, it was their junior driver. I knew that there was an opportunity to go to Formula One, and that was kind of the big picture, yeah.
But was the main reason the family moved from Canada to Europe to support your racing career?
Yes, absolutely. It's thanks to my mom, my sister, everyone, the whole family. I mean, without my sister, willing to go to school in Europe and, supporting my dreams, I wouldn't be where I am today. Without my mom willing to do it, I wouldn't be where I am today. And without my dad, supporting me and helping me from day one, and being being by my side, I wouldn't be here today. So it's everybody, for sure. It's my whole family. They've all contributed, and they've all supported me and been there with me throughout the journey, and it's thanks to them that I am where I am today.
It's an incredible family commitment, isn't it? Now, there's the perception that you've had an easy ride getting here. Now, you're familiar with the stick people used to beat you, but what is your reaction to that? Because that story you've just told about the whole family moving to Europe, that's commitment way beyond just Lance Stroll, isn't it?
For sure. I mean, I love it. I fuel off of it. I think.
What, the criticism?
For sure. If you don't fuel off the criticism, then you dwell on it, and it eats you up inside. So I think I've learned to kind of embrace it and use it as energy to prove people wrong. And I love that. I think that's it's powerful. It's powerful to use it as fuel. And but I've always said to myself, I'll just do my talking on the track, and it's always been like that since day one because of where I come from and my background. There's a lot of people that I guess probably hope that I don't do so well, and they hope that I fail, and that's okay. Everyone is entitled to have their own opinion. So at the end of the day, I just do my talking on the track, and I won those championships leading up to Formula 1, Formula 4, Formula 3. I won the Toyota Racing Series in New Zealand.
That's a decent CV.
And in Formula 1, I've been on the podium. I've been on pole, and I've had many good races. My consistency hasn't been the best. I'm aware of that. That's something that I'm still working on. In the last couple of years, I definitely think that my consistency can be better. And there was a year at Williams where I was in a pretty bad car, so that was a tough year for me. But I've proved as well in Formula 1 that I deserve to be here, and it's always going to be the same. I think I've recognized that it's when you do bad, people start talking bad, and when you do well, everyone's right there. Everyone wants a piece of the pie, so it's all part of the circus.
Now, it's great to sit down with Lance on Beyond the Grid for a long chat about his career. But to follow the latest highs and lows of his season, you need to listen to the F1 Paddock Pass podcast on Spotify. Minutes after that incredible pole position in Turkey, a pumped-up Lance was telling F1 Paddock Pass all about it. It's the place to hear the drivers' views on the latest wheel-to-wheel battles and the biggest F1 stories. Episodes are free to listen to and come out exclusively on Spotify 3 times every race week, and you don't need a premium account to listen. On Thursdays, Will Buxton previews the weekend's action. After qualifying on Saturday, we talk to the star performers up and down the grid and look ahead to the race itself. Then on Sunday, minutes after they cross the line, the winners, the losers, the happy and the heartbroken tell F1 Paddock Pass the story of their races. It really is your complete race weekend audio guide. You can listen to F1 Paddock Pass for free, no need for a premium account, on Thursdays, Saturdays and Sundays of every race week, only on Spotify. And hit the follow button to keep up with the very latest episodes. For now though, let's get back to our chat with Lance. There are other drivers on the grid who have had equal opportunity to you. Do you think you get a rougher ride in the media than they do?
I mean, maybe. To be honest, I try not to read too much of what's going on in the media. It's a lot of noise, and it's kind of a waste of my time, to be honest. So, I don't know all the details to that question. I couldn't answer it for you.
How would you describe your relationship with your father?
I guess I know him pretty well. We've been through quite a bit together. You could say that. No, I have a great relationship with him away from the track. As a dad, and as a boss. So,
is it odd having him as a boss?
No, because he's a good boss. So, he's been extremely successful in so many of his businesses. It's in the fashion industry and in whatever he's he's picked up, he's been successful at, and it's been the same in Formula One. You know, where we were this time last year as a team, even before this time last year, at the beginning of last year, and where we are now. It goes to show how much progression and how much progression we've made as a team, and that's thanks to him. That's thanks to him, guiding this ship, and it's thanks to the 500 very talented people that we have back at the factory that go to work and every day and get the job done.
Does he put a lot of pressure on you?
I think I put more pressure on him when he's watching the race from the sidelines. I mean, he's picked up a few gray hairs over the years.
Final lap, Lance Stroll on for his first ever podium. Valtteri Bottas 1.3 seconds behind.
Huge pressure for the teenager in the Williams, but he looks rock solid.
Lance Stroll, has he been overtaken by Valtteri Bottas? Just on the line, Bottas gets second.
Oh man, he got me.
Unlucky. P3, mega drive.
I can remember Baku 2017 and seeing your dad stood below that podium. He was welling up. It was a special moment, and he really cares about your career, doesn't he? That's what came across in that moment, and you see it every step of the way. Do you almost feel like it's the two of you doing this together?
For sure, we've been on this journey together from the start, and we're still on it. But yeah, I mean, he doesn't put pressure on me, because he supports me when it through the hard times as much as the good times, and I think that's what family does. It's a bigger picture than just racing. It's a father and son journey. It's a family journey. Like I said, we've all been on it together, and he's had my back through the highs and through the lows, and that says it all.
Do you share any other hobbies away from racing?
We get pretty competitive on the golf course sometimes. I give him a few strokes, but yeah, that's about it, I guess.
What's your handicap?
Oof, that's a tough question, Tom. Some days it's 100. Some days I play scratch.
But on a good day, varies.
I like to think I'm around a 6-7. Yeah, when I'm playing well.
That's proper.
Like I said, that's a very loose handicap. Some days it's more like a 26, 27. So
yeah,
let's keep talking about racing.
In fact, do you and Dad share a passion for is it the New York Giants and other sports away from F1?
Yeah, we watch the Giants. We went to 2 Super Bowls. Where they both won when I was young. It was 2007 and then 2012. We've always been big fans, and we were both Super Bowls, so that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that is very cool. Now look, that was you as a fan. I want to ask you about your fans. Did you know that your eyebrows have their own Twitter page?
My eyebrows?
Yes.
No, clearly I haven't been spending enough time on Twitter. What's it called?
I can't remember.
Lance's brows with like a Z at the end.
I've just got it scribbled down on a note in front of me here. Ask him about his eyebrows, which have got their own Twitter page. But look, what about your relationship with your fans?
I guess when it comes to my eyebrows, it's pretty good. Or bad, I don't know.
You ought to trademark them. Damon Hill used to have his visor open, and there's a shot of with his balaclava over his nose. Anyway, enough of your eyebrows. What about just your fans? When you go to Montreal, what kind of reception do you get? Fans are they waiting for you in the airport?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, for sure. Not only Montreal, I think across the globe, it's amazing sometimes when we're in the middle of, I don't know, like Russia or Japan. I mean, Japan, it's amazing. The fans are incredible. But wherever we go, sometimes we're in the weirdest places, and I'll just like see like some Canadian flags, and I'll stop and start talking to the to the people, and like they're like, oh, we came all the way from Toronto or Montreal or Vancouver to, you know, we're here, we go to every race. So like it's just crazy. Like you know, there's people that they just love it. They love the excitement, they love the sport, and that's so great to see. You know, that's what makes Formula One so amazing, is there's, you know, fans all across the globe that even, you know, they travel around the world and to support drivers, teams, and you know, it's really an electric you know, environment. It's amazing. It's incredible. And in Montreal, it definitely is the most special race of the season for me. It was a shame to see it didn't happen this year. I was really looking forward to it, and you know, when I show up to the track, all the support, all the energy, it really is amazing. I remember when I scored my first point there, my first points. I finished 9th in 2017. The reaction of the crowd and the support. You know, I think there was a video that my friend took. He was in the grandstand, and I overtook Fernando Alonso in that race to get my first points, and the reaction in the grandstand was incredible. And you know, everyone was up on their feet, and hundreds of thousands of people, and you know, that is touching. You know, it's an honor to support my country and what I do, and to have the support, to have, you know, fans that are so into Formula One, and they really love the sport. Every year we go to Montreal, I think we all feel it. You know, the fans really get into it. They love Formula One. They love the action, and that's what makes it so great. So, you know, I love going home. And the last couple of years, I've even had my grandstand, the Lance Stroll grandstand in the hairpin. And everyone wears like a Lance Stroll t-shirt, and that's been pretty cool to have that support. So, yeah. You know, there's definitely a lot of support back home, and you know, I love it. I really appreciate everyone being there and you know, supporting me.
Let's end this by throwing it forward. 2021, Aston Martin, Sebastian Vettel. How does Lance Stroll look in green? Have you tried it on yet?
Well, Aston Martin road car is going to look pretty good in green. I mean, it'll definitely look good in green. Green, pink, whatever it's going to be. I think as long as it's fast, you know. This year it's pink. I didn't like the pink at the beginning, but it's grown on me as the car's gotten better, as we've gotten more downforce on the car. I love the pink now.
I mean, the rules are staying largely the same next year. Do you think this current car can still be improved a lot? I mean, what are your expectations for 2021, just from a results point of view?
High expectations. You know, for sure, I think we can improve. There's definitely areas. I look at, definitely, aside from the car, you know, I think this year could have been much better for me. If I look back at Monza, I think you're sitting in 4th in the World Championship and with 57 points, and now I've had like 5 or 6 really bad races, and I've only scored 2 points since then, and I fell to like, I think 10th or 11th in the World Championship. So that goes to show that there's definitely a lot more that I can achieve, you know, and that motivates me for next year. But you know, as a team and the whole car, I definitely think we can improve. I think we can progress on where we are this year. There's areas that we know the car is a little bit weak, and we're going to address some of that over the winter and come back stronger next year.
And what about Vettel? What do you know of him? How well do you know him?
Yeah, he's all right. He's a 4-time world champion. I guess he's half decent. No, he's a, you know, an incredibly, like, you know, joking aside, he's an incredibly talented driver with, you know, a lot of experience, and I really look forward to working alongside him. I think he's going to be a great asset to the team, and you know, yeah, it's going to be fun.
Are you sad to see Sergio go?
For sure. I mean, you know, Sergio's been a great teammate, and You know, we've had some fun over the last couple of years, being in the same team together, and you know, it's but that's, you know, that's Formula One, and you know, it's it's like that. I mean, teammates don't always hang around forever, I guess. So I wish him all the best in wherever life takes him from here.
Well, look, final question then has to be, what's your favourite Bond car?
What's my favourite Bond car? The old one that he drives in Casino Royale. He drives that like old one.
Oh, I don't.
It's a DB5. Goes and wins a big hand, jumps in the car, gets the girl, takes off. Favorite car. Favorite Aston Martin.
He could be a racing driver, James Bond. couldn't he?
Next year I'm going to be 0018.
That's very good. Oh, Lance, it's been wonderful to chat. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Tom.
Now, I don't know about you, but I thought we heard a different side of Lance Stroll there. He was funny, engaged, and interesting throughout. And I thought he answered the difficult questions about his critics with conviction. It'll be fascinating to see how he fares alongside Sebastian Vettel at Aston Martin next year. Seb will be a great benchmark for Lance, who will no doubt push him hard and learn a load as well. Lance, many thanks for your time. It was great to catch up properly, and good luck in the final couple of races this year. Thanks too to Racing Point for helping to make it happen. Before we go, let's have a quick look through the virtual mailbox to see what you've been saying about the show. And there's a lot of love out there for Lord Hesketh, my guest on the show last week. Geordie Pugh got in touch to say, for me, usually only the Grim Reaper stands between the fact and the result is one of the best lines from any of the episodes you've done. I was floored by that one. Well, me too, Geordie. Emotive stuff. I loved hearing Lord Hesketh's memories of the time, and it was clear that you underestimated Hesketh at your peril. Rob Kay got in touch to say, your Hesketh interview was probably my favourite, and I've listened to them all from the start. Bubbles Horsley sounds like a potential guest for the future. Well, thanks for the note, Rob. And yes, I like the sound of Bubbles Horsley too. One for next season, perhaps. And how about this one from Laurent? Lord Hesketh, what a true legend. Thank you for some insight about James Hunt not being the playboy and party animal only, but a great sportsman. This episode was indeed a time machine. Thank you. Well, yes, Laurent. I thought his observation about James's hand-eye coordination was enlightening, to say the least. Well, that's all we've got time for this week, but as ever, we'll be back with another top guest next week. We have some fabulous conversations left before the winter break. And if I haven't had time to read out your message, I apologise, and please rest assured that I've read it, because I read them all. And please keep them coming. I'm at Tom Clarkson F1 on Twitter, or you can use the hashtag F1 Beyond the Grid. And why not leave us a review online? Go on, you know you want to. Thanks for listening. As ever, Beyond the Grid is produced by F1 in association with Audio Boom. Until next time, keep it flat out.